everyone! Welcome back to my vlog. So today we are going to talk about air pollution and climate change. So guys, are you ready? And now we will talk about climate change. So what is climate change? When we see climate change, it is a significant shift in the mean state and event frequency of the atmosphere. Climate change is a normal component of the Earth's natural variability. It occurs on all time and space scales. It is a plethora of evidence exists that indicates the climate of the Earth has changed. So the causes of climate change. So the atmospheric composition. It is anything that changes the radioactive properties of the atmosphere such as volcanic eruptions or carbon dioxide. Astronomical. So anything that alters the amount or distribution of solar energy intercepted by the Earth, such as solar variation or orbital variation. Earth's surface. So it is anything that alters the flow of energy of the Earth's surface or changes its distribution, such as desertification and continental drift. So this is the greenhouse effect. So the solar radiation passes through the clear atmosphere. Then some is reflected mostly by clouds and the rest is absorbed at the surface. So the Earth's surface emits longer wavelength infrared radiation upward. Most of it is absorbed and re-emitted in all directions by greenhouse gas molecules and clouds. So the effect of this is to warm the Earth's surface and the lower atmosphere. So the long-term climate change. So 250 million years ago, the world's land masses were joined together and formed a supercontinent termed Pangaea. So as to these continents drifted apart, they moved into different latitude bands. This altered prevailing winds and ocean currents. So our changing climate. So Arctic is warming faster than most other regions, largely as predicted by climate models. This raises question about ice melt and sea level rise. So western US was warmed and dry significantly 18 degrees Fahrenheit in 50 to 100 years. So the key question is that, so how much of the warming is man-made? How serious are the problems this is creating? And what, if anything, can and should we do? So the natural greenhouse effect or the clear sky. So the clouds also have a greenhouse effect. So the blue color represents as the water vapor, the green is the carbon dioxide, the light purple is the ozone, then the orange is the methane or nitrous oxide. So increasing of carbon dioxide concentrations. So two most important greenhouse gases, the water and the carbon dioxide. Man is modifying the carbon dioxide concentrations via burning fossil fuels. Carbon dioxide's concentration are higher than any time in the last 400,000 years. The NOAA site. Amounts are now beyond the range of natural variation experienced over the past 700,000 years. So the prediction are for carbon dioxide concentrations to continue increasing to 1.5 to 3 times prevent values by 2100 from NOAA site. Changing carbon dioxide concentration have varied naturally by a factor of 2 over the past few 100,000 years. So fossil fuel burning since the Industrial Revolution has created a sharp increase in carbon dioxide concentration. So the carbon dioxide concentration are now higher than at any time in past few 100,000 years. It's because of some industry was. And welcome to this overview of air pollution. We all know that air pollution is a major public health issue. So in this video, we'll discuss outdoor air pollution, what it is, types of pollutants, and sources. We'll also take a look at ways to reduce air pollution and talk about how air quality is monitored. We'll then talk about indoor air pollution, why it's a problem, sources of pollution, and ways to reduce it. But first, what is air pollution? When we say air pollution, it occurs when the air is contaminated with any chemical, physical, or biological agents. It is the world's largest environmental health risk, leading to millions of deaths around the world each year. Although anyone can be affected by air pollution, but people who are vulnerable include the elderly, children, and people with chronic lung or heart disease. So let's take a look at outdoor air pollution first. Air can be polluted by natural sources or human sources. The natural or biogenic sources of air pollution include pollen, bushfires, or dust from deserts. Pollution of the air from human sources, also called anthropogenic air pollution, is commonly due to industries burning of fossil fuels and the use of motor vehicles. So there are hundreds of different types of air pollutants. Let's take a quick look at a few important ones. Particulate matter is a complex mixture of small particles and liquid droplets that are mainly from industry or motor vehicle. Exhaust dust storms or bushfires can also generate large amounts of PM. So particulate matter is classified according to the diameter of the particles. Particulate matter are mostly due to particles that are less than 10 micrometers in diameter, and these particles can reach the deepest parts of the lungs and enter the bloodstream. Nitrogen dioxide is usually formed when fuel is burned at a high temperature. Common sources are the exhaust of motor vehicles, industry, power plants, and gas stovetops. Carbon monoxide is colorless and odorless, and it is formed when the carbon and fuel doesn't burn completely. The main source of carbon monoxide is motor vehicle exhaust, and therefore carbon monoxide levels are very high. In other sources include industry, incinerators, and bushfires. Sulfur dioxide is a gas that can be produced when sulfur-containing fuels are burnt during industrial processes like in power plants and refineries. So lead is produced mostly as a result of metal and or processing. Motor vehicle exhaust used to be a major source of lead pollution. However, regulatory efforts to reduce lead and fuel has led to a massive reduction in lead emissions. Ozone is a gas not emitted directly to the air, but is formed as a result of sunlight acting on other chemicals in the air ground level. Ozone is a pollutant, whereas ozone that occurs naturally in the upper atmosphere has a protective function. There are hundreds of other air pollutants that can lead to adverse health effects, okay? So what are the health effects of exposure to air pollution can result in a wide range of short and long-term health effects. The health effect will depend on the factors like the type of pollutant, concentration, length of exposure, and individual characteristics of the person exposed to it. Can range from minor symptoms like irritation of the eyes, nose, and throat to more severe conditions like heart and lung disease or cancer. It can also lead to hospital admission and an increase in death rates. In 2012, outdoor air pollution was estimated to have caused 3.7 million deaths around the world. In addition to causing health effects, air pollution can also lead to damage to property, reduce visibility, and have other effects on the environment, like acid rain. What can we do to reduce air pollution? Well, there are many different ways to reduce air pollution. This requires the combined efforts of governments, industry, and individuals. For example, governments can take actions like developing standards, regulating the level of pollutants in the air, developing policies to reduce environmental impact of development, using clean energy sources. Industry, on the other hand, can take steps like reducing their emissions to the environment, taking measures to prevent pollution accidents, and developing technology to reduce emission like electric cars at an individual level, reducing the reliance on fossil fuels. And it can be achieved in actions like walking, using public transport, or choosing energy efficient means of living and transportation. Let's have a look now at how air quality is monitored. Most countries have national laws and regulations to control air pollution. These usually set out air quality standards that must be adhered to. These standards are set out by each country and will depend on factors like technological feasibility, economic considerations, capacity of air management, political and social factors. These standards specify the concentration of a number of selected pollutants called criteria pollutants that are allowed in the air. A useful way to track air pollution against the national standards is a measure called the Air Quality Index, or EQI. EQI is a simple numerical or color-coded representation of how clean the air is. So there are different ways of calculating the EQI, but it's essentially a measure of what the level of a pollutant is compared to what the national standard is. Now that we've got a look at outdoor air pollution, let's have a look at the indoor air pollution now. So although the indoor air quality is affected by outdoor air, the quality of indoor air can be significantly different. So this is because there could be many sources of indoor pollutants. So the most common of indoor pollution in the world is solid fuels like wood, charcoal, dung, or crop waste. Hitting around the world, over 3 billion people use simple stoves or open fires to cook or heat their homes. These methods are inefficient and can lead to the generation of pollutants like particulate matter, which can result in concentration indoors of up to 100 times more than that of the outdoor air. Other sources include tobacco smoke, chemicals released from building materials, furnishings, and household products, pesticides, asbestos containing insulation, and products used for household cleaning. So factors like inadequate ventilation and in some heat and humidity can worsen indoor air pollution. Exposure to indoor air pollution can lead to health effects, similar to those caused by outdoor air pollution. In 2012, the World Health Organization estimated that 4.3 million people died due to illness that could be attributed to household air pollution caused by the use of solid fuel. So there are several ways to reduce indoor air pollution, including controlling it at the source. This includes actions like changing from solid fuels to cleaner and more energy efficient solutions like biogas electricity or solar power. Improving cooking devices and constructing energy efficient housing, making improvements to the indoor environment. So this may include increasing ventilation through windows or chimneys or other design features, like having the kitchen separated from the house. So behavioral changes like properly maintaining stoves and chimneys can reduce pollutants exposure to indoor pollution. It can also be reduced to the actions such as using pot lids to conserve heat and minimize cooking time. So that's a look at air pollution. An important public health issue. So we've had a look at outdoor air pollution, different types of pollutants, and their sources, ways to reduce pollution, and air quality is monitored. We've also talked about indoor air pollution, why it's a problem, sources of pollution, and ways to reduce it.